Hey, what's up, growers? Welcome back to the channel. I just wanted to take a quick moment to thank all of you who watch these videos. The support has been crazy for such a small channel, but every one of you are appreciated and valued. As we head into the new year, I look forward to growing this community one subscriber at a time. Next step is 10,000 growers. Anyways, let's get into it. Today we're settling one of the most argued topics in indoor cultivation: powdered nutrients versus liquid nutrients. And I'm not talking about brand wars or what your buddy swears by. I mean the actual math, the real world mixing and storage issues, and the practical grow room consequences that decide whether you're maximizing yield, minimizing cost, and gaining real control over your crop. Here's the hook. Most growers think liquids are easier and powders are cheaper, but that's an oversimplification that can quietly cost you money, consistency, or even plant health depending on your setup. If you've ever felt like you're spending too much on nutrients, fighting pH swings, dealing with clogs, or struggling to dial in your feed precisely, this video is going to make the decision obvious by the end. Let's start with the cost truth, because this is where the conversation gets emotional fast. When you look at the shelf price, powders can seem like a shock because you're buying a bag, not a bottle, and you're doing more work up front. Liquids feel safer because they're simple, pre-dissolved, and familiar. But the real comparison isn't sticker price. The real comparison is cost per gallon of finished nutrient solution at the EC you actually run for the entire cycle, with waste and convenience factored in. Powders often win on cost per gallon because you're not paying for water weight. Liquids are literally a nutrient concentrate suspended in a bottle of mostly water. You're shipping water, storing water, and paying for water. That doesn't automatically make liquids bad, but it does mean you're buying convenience and consistency in exchange for a higher cost per unit of actual minerals. When you scale up, that difference becomes brutally obvious. The more solution you mix per week, the more powder economics tend to dominate. Shipping and logistics matter more than most growers admit. Liquids cost more to ship because they're heavy and bulky. They take up more shelf space. They're more annoying to store in quantity. Powders pack down small, stack clean, and don't punish you as hard when you buy in bulk. If you're running a small tent, you might not care. If you're running multiple lights or a perpetual cycle, logistics become part of your bottom line, whether you like it or not. Then there's dilution ratios and usage, and this is where some people accidentally lie to themselves without realizing it. Some liquid lines look affordable until you realize you're using multiple bottles and high milliliters per gallon, and the true cost builds up across base nutrients, additives, boosters, and CalMag. With powders, a lot of the add-on bottle ecosystem disappears because you can build a complete profile more directly. But powders can also trick you if you're chasing a dozen separate dry salts and making it complicated. The savings are real when the system is efficient, not when it's a chemistry hobby. Now let's talk about mixing and application realities, because this is the part that decides whether your grow is smooth or constantly annoying. Liquids are easier to mix because they're already in solution. You pour, stir, check EC, adjust pH, and you're done. Powders require dissolution, and not all powders dissolve equally well. Some salts dissolve quickly, others clump. Some need warmer water, some need pre-mixing into a concentrate before adding to a reservoir. If you dump dry powder straight into a res and call it a day, you can end up with uneven concentrations, sediment, or precipitation that shows up as drift in EC and weird plant responses. Sediment is a big deal, especially in recirculating systems, hydro setups, drip lines, and automated feeding. Anything that doesn't dissolve cleanly becomes maintenance. It can clog emitters, coat tubing, foul pumps, and create buildup that turns into a biology problem later. Liquids generally reduce sediment issues, but they can still precipitate if you mix them wrong, mix out of order, or slam concentrates together in high concentration zones. The real lesson is that method matters more than the form, but powders punish sloppy technique harder. pH stability and conductivity spikes are another major difference in how these products feel in real life. Powders can create sharper EC changes during mixing because you are adding a concentrated solid that's dissolving into the solution. Liquids tend to mix more smoothly, but they can also cause pH swings depending on the formulation and the buffering system built into the line. Some liquid nutrients are designed to be more stable in typical tap water. Some powders assume you're using RO and building from zero. Your water source and system design matters here more than people want to admit. This is where automation enters the conversation. If you're hand mixing in a bucket, liquids feel like the obvious winner for convenience. If you're running automated dosing, powders can actually become a superior option when used correctly because you can make stable stock, concentrates, and dose precisely. But you need the right formulation and the right practices to avoid precipitation. Some powder salts don't behave well in high concentration stock tanks. Some do. And if you're using modern dosing, the best setup often depends less on powder versus liquid and more on whether the nutrient line was designed for concentrated stock dosing or for direct reservoir mixing. Next is storage and shelf life, and this is a bigger deal than most growers realize because nutrients don't just sit there forever unchanged. Powders are generally more stable and more space efficient. Stored correctly, dry salts hold potency for a long time because there's no water for reactions to happen easily. Liquids can degrade, separate, or fall out of solution over time, especially if stored in heat, sunlight, or freezing conditions. Again, not all liquids do this, but the risk is inherently higher because water is part of the product. Contamination risk is also real. Powders are less likely to be biologically contaminated because, again, no water. Liquids can be contaminated if bottles are exposed to dirty measuring tools, if you pour back into containers, or if you store partially used product improperly. Once biology gets into a liquid nutrient bottle, you can end up introducing problems to your system that have nothing to do with the plant and everything to do with hygiene. Now we get to what most people actually care about: uptake and plant performance. In theory, plants don't care whether nutrients came from a powder or a liquid. They care about ionic forms, ratios, pH in the root zone, and overall stability. If the nutrient ions are available and delivered consistently, the plant can perform the same. But in practice, the form can influence consistency and system cleanliness, and those two factors absolutely affect plant performance. Bioavailability and chelation are major pieces of this. Some liquid nutrients include chelated micros designed to stay stable across a range of pH and conditions. Some powders do as well, but not all. If you're running a system where pH swings or where precipitation is common, chelation quality matters. It influences whether micronutrients stay in solution and available or get locked out and cause subtle deficiencies that show up as slow growth, weird coloration, or weak flower development. System cleanliness is another performance factor. If powders leave residue and create buildup, root zone health can suffer indirectly through clogged delivery, inconsistent feeding, or microbial issues that thrive on deposits. Liquids can keep systems cleaner, but some liquid lines rely on organic components that can feed biofilm in recirculating systems if you're not running a sterile approach. So again, the best choice depends on whether you're running sterile hydro, living media, drain to waste cocoa, or a recirculating setup that needs low residue. So which one wins for yield and quality? The honest answer is that both can produce top-tier results if the solution delivered to the root zone is stable, complete, and consistent. The difference is how easy it is for you to maintain that stability in your specific setup. Powders often win for cost efficiency and customization, especially as you scale. Liquids often win for simplicity, consistency, and reduced mixing friction, especially for smaller grows or growers who value speed and repeatability. Now let's talk about the ultimate question: control. Control means being able to fine-tune your nutrient profile and respond quickly when the plant tells you something is off. Powders tend to offer more precision for advanced growers because you can manipulate ratios more directly, especially if you're comfortable with targeted adjustments. You can change nitrogen expression, tweak potassium levels, correct calcium or magnesium imbalance, and build a recipe that matches your genetics and environment more closely. Liquids can be less granular because they're packaged as a system and the ratios are baked in. That can be a disadvantage if you want full customization, but it can be a huge advantage if you want repeatability without overthinking. Problem-solving speed matters too. If your plants need a quick adjustment, liquids are often faster to implement because you're measuring milliliters, not dissolving salts or making new concentrates. But powders can also be fast if you have stock solutions prepped and you know what you're doing. The difference is whether you've built a process that makes precision easy, not stressful. So here's the way I'd frame the decision. If you want the best bang for your buck, especially over time and at scale, powders usually win. They reduce shipping waste, they store efficiently, they stay stable longer, and they allow precision when used correctly. If you want simplicity, speed, and lower friction day to day, liquids usually win. They reduce mixing errors, integrate smoothly into manual routines, and make consistency easier for many growers. The best choice is the one that matches your system, your tolerance for mixing complexity, your storage realities, and how much you value granular control versus plug-and-play consistency. Because the real goal isn't to pick the best nutrient form, the goal is to build a feeding system that is stable, repeatable, cost-effective, and easy to maintain, so your plants can do what they're genetically capable of doing. Leave a comment below if you would like for me to follow this up with a practical decision guide based on your exact setup, like cocoa versus hydro, drain to waste versus recirculating, RO versus tap, and whether you're hand feeding or running automation. If this video helped, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Are you team powder or team liquid? And what system are you running right now? Well, that wraps up for today, guys. Again, thank you for watching, and as always, I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.